And we have takes. Welcome to Football Takes. Football! Yeah! Football!
And it's a good day to be a football take today here. We got firings. We got crazy NFL games over the weekend. We got the Natty tonight. We'll be live for 5 o'clock tonight. Is that when we're gathering?
5 o'clock live college football show.
That's right. If you want to hear three sickos tell you everything that's going to happen in advance of tonight's game, we'll be live on the Football Takes channel at 5 o'clock Central Time here. But North American Banking Company is powering these Football Takes here today. Click that subscribe button and the like button, by the way, on our brand new YouTube channel. If you haven't, you can help us keep growing this thing. We just launched it a few weeks ago. So appreciate those of you who have done that. North American Banking Company, 6 locations in the Twin Cities area for our Twin Cities audience. And they focus on 2 main things: personal relationships and cutting-edge online tools. Also just love the fact that they're so invested in community banking, too. A human experience, a human touch to banking. Who knew in 2026? Go to nabankco.com/Mackey to learn more. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. The news just broke a couple hours before we hit record here. Sean McDermott was fired immediately this morning. Another Bills devastating playoff loss. And so, Jub, we'll throw it to you for the first football take.
So, and my God, what a weekend. 2 just great games. But my take is this. In tying the Bills and Vikings history of heartbreak together, you can blame the officials for the Bills' loss. You can say, oh man, that was a catch. You can say those pass interference calls were terrible. But at the end of the day, this game resembled the 2009 NFC title game between the Vikings and Saints, down to this fact. The Vikings and Bills lost those games because both of those teams turned over the ball 5 times. So as much as you want to blame the Bills, there was a great story, how, poor Josh Allen is crying at the podium and all of that, protecting the football, which, by the way, we saw as an issue all weekend long, but protecting the football and taking care of business with the ball is ultimately the most important thing. The Bills fumbled 6 times. They lost 3. Allen lost a couple of fumbles. He threw 2 picks. And by the way, the 5 turnovers by Buffalo led directly to 16 points by Denver. So if you want to go back and look at the problem, and just for some context, too, guys, for the importance of protecting the football this time of year, here's the incredible thing. 2024 divisional round. 4 games, 10 turnovers total, none in the Texans-Chiefs game, okay? And, of course, every team that lost the turnover battle a year ago lost the game. The same thing this year, but here's the incredible thing. The number of turnovers this weekend compared to a year ago in the same round was doubled. 20 turnovers total, including 5 by the Texans, 3 by the Niners, 5 by the Bills, 3 by the Bears, who, by the way, the luck of the turnover differential dried up and went away. But when I looked at that Buffalo loss, and it was a heartbreaker, and if you're a Bills fan, it sucks. The reality is you're in the same boat as the 2009 Vikings. Protect the damn football.
Can I take what you just said, and I want to throw a question at Thor to start with here. The way that they lost that game, is firing Sean McDermott the morning after an emotional overreaction or the only chess move left for the Buffalo Bills?
I don't understand it, because if you're going to fire him, you need to fire everyone in the front office as well. And it seems like this seems more parlor intrigue to me of the party that got there first. You were going to have a scapegoat, and they're providing it, potentially one that can save their jobs. But I don't understand how you fire the head coach here and not the decision maker with the roster. The Bills, you look back at their drafting history after the Josh Allen draft, they've done nothing. Years and years of poor drafting and a lot of picks that you knew were mistakes in the moment. When they took Keon Coleman, it's like, all right, you knew exactly how that thing was going to play out. The guy had a 0% separation rate in college, and he's not a hard worker. Okay. Usually that profile does not translate very well to the NFL. For me, this is you either have to go the full way with it or you have to let the same cast of characters try again. Going the halfway measure, I think it's a mistake either way.
I understand why they thought there were no more chess moves to be made. I mean, granted, like, you can't reverse the draft. I don't disagree with what you're saying about their roster construction and kind of their depth and all those things. But, like, okay, this is how the chessboard has played out. And you could make a case that the Bills are the most consistently good team. Like, the 2020 through 2025 Buffalo Bills are the most consistently good team to never make it to a Super Bowl. 6 seasons, 5 division championships, 73 wins in those seasons, so 12 wins per season, and an MVP quarterback. And according to Ben Solak from ESPN's research department, only 4 teams in the Super Bowl era have won a playoff game in 6 consecutive seasons. The Buffalo Bills, who've now, this is their 6th year in a row where they've won a playoff game. The 18 through 24 Kansas City Chiefs, who won 3 Super Bowls over that stretch. The 2011 through 2018 Patriots, who won 3 Super Bowls over that stretch. And the 1991 through 1996 Dallas Cowboys, who, you guessed it, won 3 Super Bowls over that. So there's 4 teams who've won playoff games in 5 straight years. The other 3 were dynasties, and the Buffalo Bills never made it to a Super Bowl, which is an amazing disconnect in terms of, like, how many wins they had in the regular season, how good their quarterback is, and how woefully short they continued to fall in the playoffs.
The power struggle in Buffalo, though, seems to be real because of this. Lost in the news about McDermott being fired, the Bills promoted Brandon Beane and added the title of President of Football Ops to go along with his GM title, and he will now oversee all facets of the organization. So if this was...
Well, that was like today? They did
yes,
that today?
They immediately did that. So they fired McDermott, and then to Thor's point, the guy that should have been questioned along with Sean, if not fired, was given more power. Reminds me a little bit of the Spielman-Frazier days. But I think when you see that happen, it probably means that somebody, in this case, Brandon Beane, was like, hey, look, McDermott's taken us as far as we could possibly go. Give me more power. So, like, these things to me always strike of some sort of struggle for power that took place at some point.
Yeah, what was it that Littlefinger said in Game of Thrones? Chaos is a ladder. And in this case, you have a chaotic situation coming out of the playoff disappointment that Mr. Bean appears to have used in order as a stepladder, where you were blaming McDermott for everything that happened there. When, again, you look back at the draft history, I think the culpability, I might shade it more towards the front office. At a certain point, yes, Josh Allen's great, and that pick was awesome. But outside of that, what else have we done to construct a roster that can make a deep run here? And I think that's sort of the fall down there. You watch that Broncos game, and Josh Allen, the uncharacteristic thing, he was trying to go above and beyond and put on the Superman cape. And there was a couple of times where it's like, bro, what are you doing? A couple of the times where he's running around with the ball and he's holding it out like the bread loaf, and he's just inviting Nick Bonito or whoever to just come and swipe the thing out. He thought he had to win that game by himself. And to me, that goes back to the drafting. I'm sure the front office made the argument behind closed doors. No, that's it. It's because the game plan was poor and they weren't prepared to play. I don't know. I would argue with that.
Mm-hmm. Two names, in my opinion, to watch for the next head coach of the Bills. First guy, does Brian Daboll get another crack?
Yeah.
Diana Rossini had a nugget on that, talking to people around the league. Did you see her tweet about that?
I have not.
She tweeted it was 20 minutes after the firing that she's talked to people in the league circles, say that Brian Daboll is the name to watch there. And then the first response was, it happened 20 minutes ago. And she said, I work fast.
Another one. So the Broncos quarterback coach, Davis Webb, is extremely close with
San Jose State?
Davis Webb was Cal.
The Gophers. I feel like the Gophers played him once, like 10 years ago.
So this is a quote from last year. I think this was in the Denver Post. And he said from last year, I love Buffalo. It's my favorite place I've ever played. and my best friend is the starting quarterback over there. So Davis Webb and Josh Allen, there's like a huge connection. I'm not saying that just because they're best buddies, but that is another one I saw floating around today as a couple candidates that could get the job there in Buffalo.
And he can't talk to them for a week now because the guys who are going to the conference championship game, the assistants are not allowed to talk to teams this week. I think they are then next week in the time between the Super Bowl and the conference championship games.
Can I throw out the name Mike Tomlin? I have not seen any connection there, and obviously they'd have to trade for him. And Thor, you brought up, I think, on our text thread? I can't remember. I've been rifling text this morning, but they don't have enough draft capital to maybe warrant trading. But if you're Tomlin and you were 68 and 48 the last handful of years with atrocious quarterback play or old quarterback play, and now you can just like bring your Mike Tomlinisms into a place where you have a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback and hire the right offensive coordinator. I mean, if I'm Tomlin, there's very few things that would get me to go away from like a year hiatus and do some broadcasting. The Buffalo Bills job with Josh Allen is one of those things.
I absolutely think that Tomlin is going to go through with the TV thing, but one sort of like side example that would speak to your theory of this, it reminds you a little bit of Kyle Whittingham at Utah, where Kyle Whittingham was at Utah for years and years and years. He was a great coach. Everybody agreed on that. But he appeared to have stagnated at sort of that quality level for several years. And then the fans start to be like, well, why can't you win a national championship? And then Whittingham's finally like, all right, I'm out of here. And it looked like he was just going to retire. But then Michigan's job popped open late with the Sharon Moore stuff. And then Whittingham ends up going to Michigan. If a super attractive, and we have a lot of openings now, one of these attractive openings, if they call Tomlin like, you're our guy, would Tomlin change his mind? And then, of course, the trade compensation, which is something in college you just have to pay a buyout. In the NFL, it gets a little trickier with working out draft pick compensation. But, yeah, it is an interesting thing to think about and to keep an eye on.
I'm going to guess that they go offensive guy now. Bills are.
That's where Daboll does make sense from that perspective. I mean,
and Mills does too.
But like Daboll, and you could say, well, he was a bad head coach. Well, he definitely had a bad 2 or 3 year run there. But that organization has become kind of just a breeding ground for. It's kind of funny how the Giants went from being this model organization to being the one that just like misstep after misstep, misgauging Saquon Barkley. All sorts of weird steps there. The Daniel Jones contract extension at the time for like $40 million a year off the back of that playoff run that Daboll orchestrated as a head coach.
Coach of the year.
Mm-hmm. That year,
His first year. He's coach of the freaking year, and then it just went off the cliff. So where does McDermott go, though? That's my question. Because I think he's going to get a job immediately.
Well, you know where he's from. You know where he went to high school.
Reckless speculation.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
It was on the Philly side of Pennsylvania. I think he maybe grew up an Eagles fan because the high school he went to was like 30 minutes north of Philadelphia. But he did go to high school in Pennsylvania, and he's not that old. He's like 50, maybe 51. Now, the last 3 head coaches that the Steelers have hired going back to the late 1960s have all been in their mid-30s. So they and maybe that's just a weird trend in a small sample size. Are they thinking about, hey, our next hire has to be someone else that's in their 30s because we only hire in 15-year, 20-year cycles? But the only thing I would worry about with Sean McDermott there is I feel like you do need a better quarterback solution than what they have now, which is nothing.
Right.
If you're him, like, would you jump right? It's a stable job because it's the Steelers, but would you jump right into that after having Josh Allen for the last 6 or 7 years and being unable to get over the hump with Josh Allen? Would McDermott be chomping at the bit to take a job where you don't know, like, you have no clue and no path to who your quarterback is going to be in 2026?
I'd love to get another crack at the Bills if I'm McDermott. That part of it would jive. And yeah, you need a quarterback. I don't know. I'll toss something out. What if McDermott went there and then you go after Malik Willis in free agency? that franchise passed on Malik Willis with the first-round pick where they took Kenny Pickett. That was a huge mistake. There's elements of Malik Willis's game where you can do some Josh Allen-y kind of things. It's the same thing with you have to account for his legs, and he'll steal yards on the ground, but he also has the slingshot arm, so you have to play the two-eye safeties the entire game against him, or he can hunt downfield. Maybe that'd be something to look into.
Reckless speculation.
All right, Dex, why don't you go up?
Football.
Yeah, I'll go next here. So, man, the Texans defense did everything possible to try to win that game. Again, in New England, it was a great defense all year. The Texans have once again find themselves in the divisional round. Now 0-7 in divisional round play. They have never won a divisional round playoff game. They've been there a few times. They went there with Deshaun Watson, I think, a couple times. I think Matt Schaub, maybe like at the back end of that, got there. But they, with CJ Stroud, have been in a divisional round every single year. They've won a playoff game in the 3 years Stroud has been there. But an epic fart noise, and probably even more of a fart by CJ Stroud yesterday, with just a terrible day. So I guess Thor, he had this like insane rookie year, and I think sometimes people forgot what happened that rookie year because of what Jaden Daniels then did the very next year. But that rookie year that Stroud put up was one of the best rookie quarterback seasons, maybe the best that we've ever seen. And I think Stroud's still good. I like CJ Stroud, but as he hit a wall, was the 1 year, rookie year with Houston just kind of an anomaly, I guess. What was your takes on CJ Stroud coming into the draft, where he was drafted second overall? And did you see him having like the career like this? Has this surprised you? Has this kind of been on par, I guess? When you look back like 3 years later now, he's been in the NFL for 3 years. What is your kind of take on CJ Stroud?
Well, there was a lot of questions about CJ Stroud in his pre-draft process. That was like the guy who was nitpicked the most that year, and fairly or unfairly. And then, he ends up going in the top three. Houston makes that trade up for the second top three pick, and they took Stroud and Anderson there. And in the rookie season that you're talking about, where he did really good, that was in Bobby Slowick's offense. And then, but then the next year, then it greatly regressed, and then Bobby Slowick gets fired. Then you hire a new guy, and Stroud looks even less comfortable in that offense. I talked to a football source yesterday that was sort of openly speculating that the Texans have to fire their offensive coordinator and find a guy that Stroud is comfortable in his offense. Well, you had that guy the first year, but then he wasn't comfortable in it the second year. Stroud has his game. He has always reminded me of a sniper, where when he has the thing on the, what do you call it? The turret or whatever, or this? Yeah. When you have the gun where it's, totally leveled and everything, he is as accurate as it gets. But when you can start pushing him off his spot, when you can confuse him with the coverage looks, that's where it can go wonky really, really quick, especially the thing of pushing him off of his spot. And he was just so uncomfortable yesterday. I shut that game off at late first half. The quarterback, he can't even take a snap without him giving the ball to the defense. He didn't know what he was seeing out there. So, yeah, they're going to have to switch up the play caller. But again, how are you going to shade that thing when that was the issue with the first play caller of 1 year he's really good with him, the next year he's not. So yeah, they got a lot of soul searching to do in Houston this offseason.
I mean, it is so they'll pick up his fifth-year option because like he's super talented and you've got so much invested in him. But the stagnation at best and the regression at worst, where like in a week ago it was it was the fumbled snaps, like the last 2 weeks in terms of operations. What do you do? Like this isn't your first football game, and I can't tell if the pie chart is like 60% Stroud, how much of it is offensive line versus play calling and kind of offensive structure, because it is a defensive centered head coach in DeMeco Ryans, and the defense has been the carrying force for that team. But isn't it crazy that CJ Stroud puts up one of the great rookie seasons in NFL history, and less than 2 years later, people are openly questioning in the second quarter of a division round playoff game, should he be benched for Davis Mills? And it was like a legit, I know. You might have to, was kind of the consensus there. How did we get here from where CJ Stroud was a couple years ago? And these are rhetorical questions, where does this wasted opportunity rank where you have a defense like that and the bar is pretty low for how many points you have to score, and you can't even get out of the second round of the playoffs? Crazy.
What struck me was he looked completely lost. Like he looked, I mean, it was a terrible day, right? It was raining and sleeting and snowing. And Drake May didn't look great. But Drake May looked in control of like, okay, here's what I'm not having a great day, but here's what I have to do to win, right? Like you see this with like Stroud, and you're like, this guy has like no confidence. Like he's literally throwing the ball that I think it was the first half that he heaved up in, I think, the red zone, his own. So not like the Patriots, but I think it was like at the 20 or so. And he literally was about to get sacked, and he just decided, screw it, I'm going to throw the ball up. I've seen that before. That's the look of fear. Like I don't want that guy. And so, yeah, it feels like there is a lot to unpack here now. And what's so intriguing to me about this is, these quarterback stories are all over the place. Just because you're great as a rookie does not mean that you're going to be great in your second year, third year. This is why getting actual generational guys is so tough, because Thor, there's so many times you don't know. But I mean, CJ Stroud, for lack of a better term, looked like a mental mess more than anything to me on Sunday.
Oh yeah, he looked horrible, and I think what it proves that, and to your point, you have a very small bucket in the NFL of quarterbacks who, irregardless of the circumstance, if you have a dippy offensive coordinator, you have a bad offensive line, you have a mash unit wide receiver, there is a small group of quarterbacks walking this earth that are going to elevate the situation no matter what. You put the worst circumstances around me, I'm going to elevate it. But that number is just so small. You have a much bigger group of starting caliber quarterbacks in the NFL that are going to sort of go as the circumstances around them go. They can't elevate the guys around them, but if they have a good situation around them, an ideal one, they're going to play really good and they're going to look like stars. And I think CJ Stroud is that guy, right? He's in that group. He is never going to be the upper echelon of the NFL, a guy where he is raising his supporting cast. You look at yesterday, Woody Marks, has been the Texan. Woody Marks is just a guy. They're without Nico Collins, right? And then you're playing a bunch of, whether it's wide receivers that didn't work out the first time, a Hutchinson, or whether you're playing the young kids there. You just didn't have a lot of help, and their offensive line's been bad for years, and we obviously question the offensive coordinator as well. The whole situation just devolves around CJ Stroud, and CJ Stroud devolves. That's the way more common thing in the NFL than I think the singular guys there at the top that can raise the tide no matter what.
Yeah. Okay, I got a take for you.
Football.
Off of the Bears-Rams game. Just brutal watching those teams, the wind, the cold. Matthew Stafford's cheeks reminded me of Tom Coughlin's cheeks from that NFC title game at Lambeau Field.
Yeah.
I think they just peeled his cheeks off and put him in Canton, Ohio after that game was over. But I think what we witnessed in the fourth quarter of that Bears game, Caleb Williams going backwards 25 yards on 4th and season after doing the 4th and 8 thing the week before, fading to his left and throwing off balance. That was one of the great throws in NFL history, only to be topped the next week by going backwards 25 yards and finding a touchdown in the left corner of the end zone. That was one of the 3, unfortunately, most wasted touchdown passes in the last 20 years of the NFL. And I'll give you the other 2. These are touchdown passes where in the moment we're thinking iconic, incredible, a jumping off point to something great for this franchise. Minneapolis Miracle in January of 2018. Now they won the game at least. The other 2 examples, they were like thwarted in the game. But Vikings hit Keenum to Stephon Diggs, walk-off touchdown. Here we go. This is going to catapult the Vikings. This iconic play is going to catapult the Vikings to their first ever Super Bowl championship. And then they go and get their asses kicked in Philadelphia the next week. And it's like, it's a play that we remember, and it's definitely up there, top 10 NFL plays. But if it were to have been paid off in Super Bowl fashion, that play gets elevated. A few years later, We already talked about Josh Allen and the Bills. With 13 seconds left on January 23rd of 2022, Josh Allen hits Gabe Davis for a 19-yard touchdown pass to go up 36-33 in Kansas City to finally stick a dagger in the Kansas City Chiefs. Here we go, Buffalo Bills, on our way, Super Bowl, let's get it, right? 13 seconds left was a little bit too much for Patrick Mahomes. Bing, bang, field goal range, tie game, overtime. Josh Allen never gets the ball back. And that touchdown pass to Gabe Davis, which could have vaulted the Bills to a Super Bowl, means essentially nothing. And then the Bears. I mean, they hit that pass. And quite frankly, if Caleb just or if DJ Moore, I don't know, runs a route. I don't know what DJ Moore was doing on that play, on that interception. And Caleb was pretty reckless throughout the game. And he was kind of all over the place. But, dude, what are you doing on that route if you're DJ Moore? I didn't really understand that. But it wiped out one of the greatest throws in NFL playoff history after one of the greatest throws in NFL history the week before that. So add it to the list of wasted touchdown passes in NFL playoff history.
Yeah, it was bad. And you said playoff, but I think that one other for your list was J.J. McCarthy's 15-yard touchdown pass to Addison at the end of the Bears game to beat them the second time, and then Duvernay, his kick return. I know you were going to get to that, but no, bad. That play by the week before Caleb Williams' throw, obviously I'll give that to him. The one yesterday, I'm not going to give that to him. That was horrific defense. You get the guy scrambling back 25 yards, and he throws up a prayer. What in basketball, it would be the equivalent of a inbounds pass and then a 3/4 court of a shot, but only if the defense on both sides was prying the hoop all the way open to make it bigger, and then the shot goes in. I couldn't believe they only had one guy back, that Durant guy, and then he appeared to get pushed off, and that's how that thing ended up happening. You get poetic justice, though, with the fraudulent Bears then giving up the score to the Rams in overtime and losing. But, tough times. And now for the Bears, it's crazy because they're getting near the end of Caleb Williams' rookie contract. They're already have cap issues because of all the big contracts that they've given out. This offseason, they're going to have to start the culling this offseason as they move into next year. You're going to be playing the first place schedule in the division, which I think they're going to find is a little bit different than playing the last place schedule every year. Between all those different things, and then when you have to extend Caleb Williams, we'll see what that roster turns into.
I like the fire, Thor. I liked it. Fiery on the Bears.
I mean, they're also going to see a takeaway regression, right? The Vikings had to live with that this season. Somebody put up a nugget that the teams that lead the league in takeaways just get hit upside the head the following year. And the Bears have led the league in takeaways, I think, 3 other times in recent history. And they average 2, 3, or 4 fewer wins the following season because you can't bank on that.
And those all the one possession wins against the bad schedule that they played this year. They are guaranteed to regress next year.
And if the Bears defense was good, it might be a little bit of a different topic, but it wasn't good. And look, they turned the ball over 3 times on Sunday. The Rams, who played far from a perfect game. I mean, McVay came out and said, I coached a really bad game. I did a really bad job. Congratulations to him for saying that. They didn't, but you know what? They had no turnovers. And so that will if you live by that, it will always eventually bite you in the ass, and it did. But I just like your fire on Caleb.
Yeah, I mean, the crazy thing is what that play should have done is elicit criticism because 99.9% of the time out of 100, that's going to be incomplete or it's going to be intercepted, and people are going to be, why the hell were you scrambling back 20 yards to throw up this 3/4 of a field shot? That was the dumbest play I've ever seen. And it just so happened that they lucked out of that one. But again, poetic justice there in overtime. And this is going to be tough for the Bears retooling this thing for next year. The degree of difficulty is going to go up so much where you're not going to have as good of a roster next year because of all the cuts that are going to have to happen. So I'm going to be interested watching that team this offseason with the decisions they make.
Yeah, what they really need is for Caleb to just be more consistent. The heartbeat of offense, we know that he can make the insane throw, running out of bounds, off balance. He can make high degree of difficulty throws more than most quarterbacks in the NFL. All right, it's the simple out route on a 2nd and 8 that he sails. I mean, and McCarthy had issues with this too, and some of it was because of the hand injury. But that 58% completions in the regular season for Caleb, and I think it was like 55% with a bunch more interceptions too. At least in the regular season, he limited his issues to accuracy problems that didn't result in interceptions. In the playoffs, It was even more accuracy issues, and they resulted in more interceptions. But if he ever figures out how to get to be like a 65, 67% completions guy with just the kind of the boring plays in between the flashy ones, that's what could make up for some roster erosion and a schedule getting tougher and those types of things. But we'll see. Can I, real quick, before we throw it to Thor here, and because there's a wild college football game tonight in terms of what's at stake, but back to that Bills-Broncos game for a second. The controversial interception. So Brandon Cooks comes down with that ball and hits the ground, and then the Broncos defensive back rips it away all in one sort of tumbling motion. Did you guys think? Well, what did you think of that? Did you think that should have been ruled a catch or an interception?
That was a catch. He had the ball on the ground. And a week before, or 2 weeks before, the officials, I'm trying to remember what play that was, but it was another controversial one, and they're like, no, it's a catch because when he was on the ground, he had possession of the ball, and so that makes it a catch. It plays over at that time. But then they switched the explanation this time around. Sometimes you get so confused about what the actual rules are because it seems like the application of them depends on the circumstance, right? As opposed to just like the rote play. It seems like it changes. So I was really surprised that they overturned that. And based on the explanation from the week or two before, I didn't understand.
That was, I have no idea what, and that's the problem because the league doesn't. They literally change their mind, and then they use terms that sound very dignified. So it's like a football move or this or that.
He didn't survive the ground.
Yes, he didn't survive the ground. I mean, it sounds like they're basically what they've done is they have language that's fit for a lawyer, and they use it to shape how they want it to be observed, but they don't know. They still don't know. I mean, since Des Bryant. I mean, they literally, in the Super Bowl here, 2018, right? For that season, or they changed the rule.
It was January of 2018.
18. Oh, okay. They changed the rule. If you guys remember, the Patriots Philadelphia, I think, had a couple of catches in the end zone where the ball was bobbled. And all throughout the 2017 season, that was not a catch. And the league basically clearly said, you know what? People are sick of this. They weren't wrong. That's now a catch. And for that game, it made sense. And they've now gone backwards. And so, and just quickly off of that, can we please fire all of these officiating analysts on TV? They are the most useless gas bags of backing up what is called. I mean, every once in a while they'll say, well, I mean, that might have been a PI there. But like Gene Steratore did nothing on Saturday to say, you know what, they got to slow this down right now. Like, that's what they had to do. They had to slow it down.
It's crazy that they didn't slow it down.
I know, but like Steratore's like, oh yeah, I can see it. And not once, like, if you're not going to give me any insight, you're fired. They give you no insight.
Yeah, and he's like, well, sometimes when you slow it down, it changes the entire way of seeing the play. So, you don't want to do that. That's not fair. It's like, then why have replays at all, man? You're making the argument of why should we even rewatch it at all? If that's go to the rules committee then. Like, we have the replay thing. We have the ability to. Are we allowed to zoom in, Gene? Or would that put too much of a spotlight on you and your referee brethren? Yeah, exactly. Like, are we using replay to try to get a better view of the thing in order to make the correct call? Or is it about absolving the referees? And if you think it's a second, get your butt off of TV. We do need better analysis there. There's a couple of them that are okay, and a couple of them are just total waste of time, where they're going to speak in vagaries and then they're going to defer to the call on the field as it was. They're not going to teach you anything. But yeah, it's a joke that thing got overturned. If he has possession of the ball when he hits the ground and it's not what are we doing? Can we just grab the ball from anyone on the ground at that point?
That's what they're saying.
Depending on if frickin' Gene's going to make the call of it, did he make a football move while he was pinned to the turf? What are we doing here?
I tweeted this, and I got just crucified because I probably didn't explain it. But I said what we're going to have now is after plays look like they're done, defenders are going to rip balls away on the off chance that 1 out of every 10 times they're going to give the ball to the defense.
Yeah.
They have no clue.
It's also wild that, and I tend to agree here. It sounds like all of us would lean toward that being a catch, and Thor's adamant it's a catch. After watching it 100 times, I understand. You can't, even if there's no defender, you can't be catching a ball while you're kind of falling, hit the ground, and it pops out. Like you do have to. I do understand the survive the ground part of it, but when you think about that. It doesn't involve like another human ripping the ball out from your possession.
Right.
So that's a new element of the survive the ground thing. But if we all would lean, and I think I heard Herm Edwards like yesterday morning was pounding the table on ESPN, it's a catch. If the football public thinks it's a catch, that means that the Buffalo Bills would have been in the AFC Championship game. Sean McDermott doesn't get fired this morning. It's kind of crazy how like the butterfly effect of that play. And now it's an AFC Championship game where the Bills are playing the Patriots, and the last time those two teams played, the Bills won, and it's Josh Allen against a really good but young, inexperienced Drake May in that spot, and they might be going to the Super Bowl if not for that. Like the paths that were altered because of that play, and for them to not, with all that turned out to be at stake for that play, for them to not stop the game and at least go through the charade of the referee going into the booth and slowing it down, even if they knew what the call was going to be, is kind of crazy. Yeah. So, that's my take on it.
And the PIs, this last one called on Buffalo was definitely a penalty. Okay,
agreed.
But there were 3 plays in particular on the ensuing Denver drive in OT, and the first one there was no flag thrown when the defender clearly yanked the receiver. It was a penalty. Then they called the next one, which was less egregious than the one they didn't call. Like, we need to find a way. I know it's a fast game, but we need to find a way to have some consistency here. And why is it that so many of these playoff games, which, to Phil's point, make and break people's lives, why is it that how often do we end up talking about this the Monday after? You know, you go back to that Saints-Rams game. Like, why can't we have a level of consistency here? You're going to make mistakes, but some of this, understand what the rules are, and if you're going to call it all, call it all. If you're going to just pick and choose, I don't get it.
I also, you know, on the same sort of note, this is a different rule, but the thing of when you give DPI, when it's an egregiously underthrown ball that the receiver has to come back for, and the defensive back, then he's just going to run into him every single time. We had to take that off the books too. If it's a fine thrown ball and both the guys are running under it, and then there's a raking of the arms or there's a collision, great, throw your little flag. When the ball is underthrown by 15 yards, so then the receiver has to slam on the brakes and fight back through the defensive back, we're going to throw the flag on the defensive back. To me, that's one of the worst ones in the entire NFL rule book.
Coordinators should be designing just like massive curl routes where you go out like 18 yards and you sprint at a linebacker on the second level and crash into him.
SGA, a football.
Yes. You can manufacture flags, throwing the lollipops 15 yards short and making someone run back for it.
Well, it's kind of crazy. All right, Thor. Football. Let's throw it to you. Give us a take.
Well, tonight, Monday, January 19th, is the national title game in college football, and we're about to see something that we have never seen before. So buckle up here. Indiana, they've won 3 bowl games. They had won 3 bowl games in their history prior to this year. They've already won 2 this year. This one, they can match their entire history if they win the national title tonight. And in so doing, they would become the first team in the FBS in college football to go 16-0, to finish a season 16-0 in over 125 years. Judd wasn't even alive the last time that this happened.
I was born the next year.
Wait, they were playing that many games back at the turn of the 1900s?
Well, when you could just round up the local YMCAs and go barnstorming, maybe it was something like that. But you also have here Kirk Cignetti, who takes over this team of 3-star recruits, essentially, and has built them up into being this absolute colossus that could do this. His quarterback, Fernando Mendoza, who ends up winning the Heisman this year, grew up in Miami, graduated from Columbus High, which exists in the shadow of the Miami Hurricanes field. And Mendoza's father plays with Mario Cristobal in high school, the Miami head coach. And then Miami has bypassed Fernando Mendoza multiple times. People argue about with the transfer portal. There's no argument about out of high school. Miami was not interested in Fernando Mendoza. That's why he traveled across the country, whatever. And then Miami ended up offering more to Carson Beck as a transfer portal quarterback last year than Fernando Mendoza. Now the two guys are going to play each other, right? Fernando Mendoza returning to his hometown of Miami, trying to beat the team of his youth in the Miami Hurricanes. And Miami quarterbacked by Carson Beck, who got pushed out of Georgia, then ended up taking the bag from Miami. You have all sorts of interesting things here as well. The home team playing in their home state, in their home city here in Miami. So you have two different things going on. The Heisman Trophy quarterbacks have gone 4-7 in national title games, but then teams playing close to home in national title games are only 4-4, which you wouldn't expect either. You also have the thing of Corey Heatherman, the defensive coordinator for Miami, first-year guy. He used to work with Kirk Cignetti. He came up with him before he went about his way. PJ Fleck sort of broke that apart, brought Heatherman over to Minnesota, and then Heatherman goes down to Miami. But this is a fascinating game here, and the storylines in this national title game are better than storylines that we've seen in analogous kind of national title games in my lifetime. This one really feels like a movie where no matter what happens with the outcome here, it feels like it's going to be made into a movie. So I can't wait for tonight.
This is going to be wild. Okay, I have found a couple answers to the little trivia crumbs that you threw out there in your take. I believe the last team to go 16-0 in a college football season was the 1894 Yale Bulldogs. The 1894 Yale Bulldogs.
Good defense.
It's a hell of a squad.
Dude,
hell of a squad.
Really good defense.
Judd, you have no idea how good their defense was.
The nickel package was among the best.
Because in those 16 games, they allowed 13 total points defensively.
Yep.
They outscored their opponents 485 to 13. So the average score of an 1894 Yale game was 30-1. In fact, I don't know, like safeties must have been much more prominent back in the day when you were just like scrumming every possession and not throwing the football. They only allowed points in 3 games, the vaunted 1894 Yale Bulldogs. 23-4 in a win over Williams College, 12-5 in a win at Army, and then a 12-4 win home against Harvard, the Stansbury of the East, on November 24th of 1894.
When did the Ford Pass come in?
That was my guy Newt Rockney, right? In the 1920s,
Ford
early 20s?
Pass, I think, was in the 20s.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. The funny part about this schedule is they actually played oftentimes multiple games per week. Like, they played on September 29th, and they beat Trinity, Connecticut 42-0. Then they turned around and played Brown on October 3rd before playing at Crescent Athletic Club on October 6th.
Wow.
And then later, then they played October 10th, 13th, 17th, and 20th. So they played 7 games all within a 3-week stretch of early October.
That's like Bishop Sycamore's schedule.
Yep. And game day.
Back to back.
Yeah, exactly.
Game day. They're all the time as well.
Yeah, game day was following that Yale team around for
Lee
sure.
Corso was definitely there in the 1890s.
He looked the exact same back then.
And then you said, so what did you say about Indiana's bowl history? So
they only won 3 bowl games prior to this year, and they've won 2 this year to get here, right? But like, yeah, they had gone something that was like 3-12 in bowl history to this point, Indiana.
And can you name the last bowl before this season? Oh, can you name any of the 3? The last one and any of the 3? Any guesses?
There was a Gator Bowl in there, wasn't there?
They lost a Gator Bowl to Tennessee in 2019.
Citrus Bowl?
1991, New Year's
Bad
Eve.
Boys Mower at Gasparilla Bowl?
They beat Baylor 24-0 in the Copper Bowl in 1991. And then you got to go back to
Shout out Twins.
3 years before that, the Liberty Bowl. They beat South Carolina 34-10.
Gophers have been there.
And then it was 1979. Their first ever bowl win was 38-37 over BYU in the Holiday Bowl.
Oh,
the Holiday Bowl. So there you go.
Really?
crazy.
Indiana.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy. When I was
Master.
when I went to undergrad, I went to Kansas, and this is back in 2003 in Kansas. They were the moribund FBS program back then, kind of like maybe you compare to Indiana now. And Kansas had hired a coach named Mark Mangino.
Oh, yeah.
And by my senior year, he built it up where we went to the Orange Bowl. And I say we because I literally went to the Orange Bowl that year. And Kansas upset Virginia Tech, Frank Beamer. Aqib Talib had a pick six in that game, and Kansas ended up rising up. That was one of the great comeback stories in college football, rags to riches kind of a thing. Up until this point, the fact that you did it even quicker, the timeline here is more than double as fast as Mangino did it, if you count his line of continuum winning the Orange Bowl. And Cignetti has done this in only 2 years, getting to the national title game, and they ain't squeaking by. We were at Mystic Lake last Friday. They took a baseball bat to that Oregon team, and it was right from the start. It was right when Oregon was walking off the bus. Indiana was all over them.
Slash their tires.
Yeah, we are talking about quasi-NFL teams that Indiana's just drop-kicking over and over again. Going to be fascinating to see if they can do that to Miami tonight, because Miami is a team that plays bully ball. That's their MO. They have an NFL-style defensive line there. You have three different guys there that are going to be top 100 picks. And the defense is crazy, crazy good. This is going to be fascinating. It's a really fun matchup.
I can't. It's going to be so much fun. And we will be previewing it here on the Football Takes YouTube channel live at 5 Central Time. Just kind of
I got lots of bets, Phil. Lots of picks for that game.
I'm ready. I'm ready to just. I'm here with open arms to just.
Thor's house. Betting on it.
Yeah, I'm either going to get foreclosed on, or else we're going to be building a second wing here next week. So we'll find out tonight.
Thor's either going to have 4 more saunas being installed, or we'll see.
Or none.
Or else I'm going to have to use one of your guys' guest rooms for the next couple months.
Thor and Sonny just hanging out.
That's right.
Yeah.
Can you babysit?
All right, Sonny. Let me tell you about the second half.
Sonny, don't ever lay 7.5 points with a favorite in the national title game. Let me tell you.
I believed in Indiana.
Yeah. All right, dude. That's a wrap on Football Takes here. We'll see you back. For sure Wednesday, but there may be emergency episodes depending on this crazy coaching cycle. Click that subscribe button, the like button on the new Football Takes YouTube channel. See you guys.